The St. John Chrysostom, he's been here 2 other times liturgically, one with Metropolitan Philip and once with Metropolitan Joseph. And he was here earlier this fall. Bishop Thomas tapped him to do a deacon's retreat. If you all remember the Sunday when we had, what, 5, 6 deacons all in the altar for Sunday morning liturgy. So, but I did email you all a link to his biography, and as well as his great personality in terms of teaching. So, welcome, Father.
Thank you for having me first. I will take any chance to come to St. John Chrysostom, York, Pennsylvania. Maybe some of you heard this, but it was my first trip outside of the New Jersey, New York area when I moved into the Archdiocese to work at the Archdiocese to help Metropolitan Philip of Blessed Memory. So it was the first time, it was my first visit driving them outside of New Jersey, New York, and I have the address, you know, on the back in the days of the GPS, not much with the phones yet. And then we get to the 24, is that whatever the route?
30?
30?
Around 30?
30?
30, yes. Each
And I
one.
was like, where is this church? All I see is houses. Like, is it gonna be just like this house, you know? And then we get to it, I was like, wow. So it's always been a beautiful experience, and beautiful church, beautiful building, beautiful rooms. All of this reflect one thing, that it's a beautiful community, you know, sincere community, and that's what I get to witness with Father Peter, and of course with Father Pam and everybody here that I met. So anytime, any chance I get to, you know, want to do something at St. John, yes, just we'll work with it. And actually this time I actually brought my wife and the kids. They just went to back to the hotel, but I just wanted them also to come and see. I'm the pastor now of St. George, Washington, D.C. as of January 6th. It's been 2 years, and this is actually my first assignment as a pastor. I was, since 2017, the deacon for Metropolitan Joseph, and then I was the subdeacon back in 2013 for Metropolitan Philip, God rest his soul. And when I see, like, my whole parish, beautiful community, beautiful people, but we have our struggles and our fights and all of this, like any parish again. Maybe we have a little bit more than others, but that's one thing. Trying to get that to the next level where we need a new building, or we need to do something with what we have. It's an old building off 16th Street in Northwest in DC, and the building is old, and so many, we're surrounded. There's not much, with multiple things, houses and other churches and stuff, so we're kind of like trapped. There's not much space to grow, but also no one lives around the church. My average drive for a parishioner is 45 minutes. This is average. We have people like few, 30 minutes, 35 minutes. But in general, no one lives most like 45 minutes or less. So it's just like, every time when I come here, I take a few pictures and stuff, and I show them the we've been in DC since 1907, well actually the mother church in the area, but the building since 1958, finished it. Anyway.
One of our parishioners is the granddaughter of Father, he built the building in 63. Father John,
John or Father?
Marjorie's
Yeah.
father.
Joe?
No.
Salou?
No. John something.
The building? Oh, I see.
It was added on in the question.
Like right from the, like in 58?
63 too?
63? Well, after,
I'll find it.
one of the things that I do on the side, what I was doing before, and I still do a lot of it too, is teach Byzantine chant. That's something I grew up with, something I studied since a very young age. And when I first came to the state, I was given the opportunity to work more on these things. So that's why I'm here today, mainly just to give some introduction, some stuff with Byzantine chant. The sky is the limit, you know, what we can do. Tried with Cody Pam to look into a couple of things that maybe we can focus on. I thought tonight it's a Friday night. It's a long week of work and stuff. We don't need to do like hard stuff, if I can say, but mainly just, and I always like to start with this, even if it's I don't know, Monday morning, all rest, all of this. But I'd like to give an introduction on, in general, what Byzantine chant is. There are a lot of misconceptions, or a lot of things that we just don't know. And a lot of times we start teaching Byzantine chant, something like, we start with, I don't know, Byzantine chant 401 or something. And we think like 101 and 102 or 101, 201, and not as if like we don't need to know or something. But so in this presentation that I just like put together from other ones that I've done and I played with it a little bit here just to, hoping that it fits what, your church. I just wanted to give a general idea historically and characteristically what Byzantine chant is. And after this, toward the end of it, we will talk about like the different genre of Byzantine chant, different modes, different scales, also an idea, something that maybe some of you know this already, maybe some of you don't know this already. At the end of the day, whatever we do today and tomorrow, it will be a drop of water in an ocean. It's a very rich tradition, an old, rich tradition. And again, a lot of times it's reduced to like, just start here, finish here, that's it. And sometimes you have to, because whatever condition you are in, whatever situation, the church, the knowledge, the work, sometimes between work and family, it's hard to do to learn it more deeply. But it's always good to know what it is in general. And at least you know where you stand, and if there's anything you want to do to like make another step up, or 2 steps up. And also I realized, part of my work, of course, when I worked at the Archdiocese, that I traveled all over the Archdiocese. Out of the 278 churches, in 7 years I probably seen 220, 230. From the smallest churches, mission, in the middle of nowhere, to like big cathedrals and stuff. And always there's, in both, as much as I don't like always keep using this, but the cradles and the convent churches, there's a lot of misconception about chant. A lot of people think that Byzantine chant is this, know a couple things, know this tone, it sounds, tone, it sounds like this, and this one sounds like this, and fine, just like, if I could say, it's like, this word in English, but like, just we're gonna do res, as long as you start with res, and then you end with shin, and whatever you say here, it means resurrection. You know what I mean? And we'll see that, we'll talk about it, So it's just as long as you begin and you end. And again, it's not something we can learn in those few hours, but hopefully some practical things, and we'll open up whatever. At the end of the day, I do have things that prepare, but then you tell me, he tells you, or you tell me like, can we do this, or can we look into this? So we can adjust with that, and we'll figure it out. And whenever you have questions, of course, let me know. You don't need to wait. And if I really need to have you like wait, I'll just tell you, just give me 1 minute, let me finish this, and then we can
talked about it. Also, something to keep in mind, just a historical thing, in the early church, well, actually, even up to like 1500s, 1600s, the average time to be a chanter, to be allowed at the chant stand, the average of education and time that you spend to learn is around 10 hours a day for 7 days, 7 years. So 7 years of like an average of 10 hours a day of learning before you get the permission to be at the chant stand. Again, I'm not saying stuff now to like tell you like, you know, I just need to tell you what it is, again, and then you do what the best you can, right? Some people have work. No one can dedicate, 10 hours a day, right? But hopefully you dedicate, I don't know, an hour a week, something. A lot of times I realized in my travels, some people just rolled out of bed and went to the chant stand and they're like, I'm an accomplished chanter. Hit the brakes a little, So fine, And again, so what, if there are things that I might say and you say, well, we don't do that here at St. John, fine. And in the end, you have to deal with what you have, with what you know, with, all of the other circumstances. But for me, and that's what we're trying to do even in the Department of Music, it's important to know that at the end of the day, it is just not about two things about this chant. There's a lot. And for it to survive till today, that we have at least from the 9th century, 10th century, there must be way more than what we just do now. Of like memorize a couple, imitate me, I'll just chant this, do this. It's fine to start with, but that's not the end. As if like somehow you want to teach someone numbers or mathematics, but the whole mathematic thing is reduced to just as long as there are numbers 0 to 10, and then 0 plus 1 equal 1, and that's it. As if somehow after this is all you need to know about math. But it's actually not. There's way more than this. So in this presentation, I'm just going to give you at least, like I said, the history and some characteristics of what Byzantine chant is. And then we can go there. We have other things in Western notation and all of this that practical that can help in all of this. If you have any questions, again, questions, complaints, or comments, let me know. Okay?
So Father John has been teaching this for a long time, but in his one biography, he earned his certificate to be allowed to go to the chanter stand at the age of 18. Yes.
Yes. I mean,
So-
and be able to participate, yes.
Yeah, liturgically in
Yeah.
life of the church. So, I mean, to me, it's just astounding. Okay.
Yeah, well, I'll tell
One,
you
your
this.
dedication, and two,
Yes.
what it takes, how long you.
I'll tell you this, even when I finished, got the certificate and all of this, and I was, I applied for the test, if I can join the Diocesan choir of Diocese back in Lebanon, and I got accepted, and we were like, I don't know, like 40-ish people, and for the first 3-4 years, I'm literally standing there, like, you're supposed to show up, or like, but do you think I've ever got a solo or something? I do my stuff very well. But they were like, no, you're still just this rookie who just came in. Yeah, but not only just because it's a rookie thing, like as if like, it's like presbytery, seniority, but also to learn that at the chant stand, it is not just like singing at a theater. At the end of the day, you're praying. So there's a lot, like our teacher, the director of the school that I was in, he was a priest, or he's still a priest, but this is like you cannot differentiate chant from church. And we'll see, I'm going to tell you about some things about the rule or the canons related. We have so many canons in the church related to the chant stand and the chanters. To the point, even if you're found not fasting Wednesdays and Fridays, guess what? You're out. You can't, if, you can basically, you're treated the same way a priest is treated. A deacon is treated, subdeacon is treated. And it's a lower rank, if I can say, of clergy. That's why, even in the older days, that no one is allowed, male or female, at the chant stand without being tonsured, as a reader or a chant. Again, I'm not saying now you call Bishop Thomas and like everybody, needs to be tonsured or else no one is allowed at the chant stand. But again, I tell
We don't
you,
have a chant stand. We don't have a chant stand.
you call that the choir or the
That's my first complaint.
Well, we kind of have like a modern like
Well, we
music
didn't have a
stand.
chanter to begin with, Father, I told you, so we
And that's
never,
well,
yeah.
there's this other misconception. Again, there's so much that we can talk and try to. If you feel like I deviated much, like okay, let's go back to the. But we do have this misconception of chanters and choir. I told them this year at the department that we probably need to reconsider that name. It's the Sunday appropriation for chanters and choirs. I was like, well, every single choir member is a chanter, and every 2 chanters are a choir. There's this, because in the mind of our people, especially here, and even in the old country for many years before, it just, when it comes to Byzantine chant, there's like this one person that does whatever, and usually one person at the chant stand. If there are multiple, it's just like, oh, we all stand and we just, like, okay, you say this verse, I say this, and as if somehow chanting together as a choir, in the Byzantine, this is wrong. Or this is not a tradition. I remember God rest his soul, my home parish in Boston, chanter who passed away. God rest his soul, in his last days, he is on crutches. And every time we would chant anything together, if it's like God is the Lord or something, he'll get so upset that he just like hit us with the crutch and say, "We are chanters, we're not a choir." It's like, Jimmy, God bless you, but this is what we're doing. Like, well, So we do have that also, this misconception that chanting and choir. But at the end of the day, like I said, every choir member is a chanter, and every 2 chanters are a choir. We like to divide them and give them names and all of this. And I can say a lot of stuff, but anyway, I don't want to, again, that's not the point.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. But what I like and appreciate, that you're in the same place, same people at least. It's not like you finish orthros and you'll be like, "Thank you very much, I fulfilled my duty for the day, and now it's up to the second group to come." Because I have nothing, that's not my part in this liturgy. Or the other way, I don't need to show up to orthros. That's not my thing. I'm a choir member, so I just show up maybe a minute or 5 minutes before, or 10 minutes, 10 minutes after Blessed is the Kingdom, because I have nothing to do with this first part. That's not, and we see that in a lot of churches, unfortunately. So what you have is actually unique, but it's good. But at least now, maybe some people like show up before, show up, of course, in every church like that. But there are a lot of churches that they have this like a clear cut. Like, here are the people who do the chant, and here are the people who do the choir. Orthros, no one else is saying anything but this group. Liturgy, this is it. That's, God forbid the choir somehow, or the chanters say Amen, of Blessed is the Kingdom, and the choir somehow. So those things, hopefully one day they die. So you want to have both styles of music? Fine, totally fine. At the end of the day, Byzantine chant and Western are very, they're 2 concrete styles of chant in the Orthodox Church. But then, just have it one. Teach both styles. And have them in, whoever wants to participate, whichever one is your forte, you can participate more than one. But the point is, just like this, a lot of churches think, you've done your part in Orthros, and even some of those chanters like, I'm done. Now after Orthros I can go back, go outside, I'll come back, I'll come back toward communion or the gospel or something because I did my part. Or, yeah, I know I'm early to church, but I'm just going to stay in the parking lot or whatever because it's not yet liturgy. They're still doing whatever thing that they do in Orthodox. Both things like no good, put it this way. But, so you do have a chance.
Yeah, and when they come, we do a great Holy Week, I'll say, because almost all of them know Orthodox.
Well, that's the beauty.
Yes,
That's it. And,
it is.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, unless you're in a family, you really have like some really good reason for you to skip Orthodox, especially people who claim that they're, a chanter or a choir member or all of this. You better have a very good excuse to skip it, other than it's just not my part. Especially with Orthodox, it's like a whole, or else what? How would you feel the difference between liturgy every Sunday? In Orthodox, where we have 90% of like, what this Sunday is about. And it's like, imagine, it's like, I see it when you skip, somebody skips Orthodox, again, unless you really can't. I'm not saying, but really, whatever it is, age, something, children, whatever it is, then of course, you have an excuse. But like, imagine like, someone invites you to lunch or dinner, and you tell them, I just want to know exactly when you offered the food. Just tell me when you put the food and it's ready to be, eaten, then I'll show up. Orthodox, at least you come and get to know the person. It's like when you show up at somebody's house, right when they're preparing, or just like they have the appetizers where you like just chilling, knowing to get to know the person, right? How many, what you've done, what you've done, well, I did this. At least you get to know more information. And then when it comes to sitting, yeah, you're busy eating now. You're doing, So, Orthodox, tell people unless you have a great reason not to, which God understands, I'm sure, but if you don't have any reason, make it Orthodox, please. Make it Orthodox. Because it's an important part of the service. Even if you're not going to change. And honestly, and I don't want to go too long, but my teacher was always will have every few months he'll ask us not to chant, to show up to church and not chant, for two reasons. Just every once in a while, take a break. At least that was his policy with us. Two reasons. One, so it doesn't get into your head that if without you, the whole world is gonna, God is not gonna hear the prayers, and we're all going to hell, and I'm holding everything, and all of this. And second, that you need time to pray. A lot of times you're gonna get busy with tone and pitch and this and that. At least once or twice a year. Just. I mean, I'm not telling, but again, not like to tell you here, don't do that, you better do this, but like those things to think about. Where you just like, you know what, I just want to pray. Although, chanting, we say that it's praying twice, right? But also, and we have petitions in the church for those who serve, those who sing, and all of this, right? But it's also important for us sometimes just to take that step back. I can't tell you how many times I've sung hymns, and after I'm done, I was like, what did I have? What did I chant? Yeah, because I was so busy. I don't want to mess up the music and making sure everybody's on the same page and all of this. And then, well, what did I do then? What did I do? Right? On the airplane, they tell you about the oxygen mask. What do they say? Put yours first, right? Right? So you still have to work on yours. You're actually, as a chanter, you're doing a great service. It's a ministry on its own. That you're speaking on behalf of the people, you're praying on behalf of the people, you're the spokesperson or you're the lawyer on behalf of the people, like speaking, to God, right? And that's why we have lawyers, right? Because they want to make sure, because they're paid, they're doing it for the money probably, But the point is, they're helping the accused person, or the sinful person, if I can say, to put like the right words in front of the judge, right? So at least we have a great, that's what we're praying over the people. We read the Psalms on behalf of the people, we chant on behalf of the people. And this is important, so we need to know what we're doing. We need to be like in that mindset of like prayer, because God, that's what He accepts at the end of the day. He doesn't care at the end of the day. It's not about a flat E or a sharp F and all of this. It's beautiful. Of course, we need that. Like St. Paul says, everything needs to be in order. But at the end of the day, that's not it. All of these are like a stepping stone to communicate with God. And there's a story about a monastery that had an older monk who was a chanter for many years. Had no idea about tones, had no, but he was doing the best he can with what he has and what he can do. After a while, there were some new monks, young monks came in, and they're all new, chant very well and all of this. And then they started kind of like cited the guy, the old man. Hey, thank you very much, you've done your part. Now we're going to do this. We're going to tell you what tone 1 sounds like. We're going to tell you what tone 5 sounds like, and all of these things. We're going to chant all of these things. And then it says that after one vigil, one festal service, the abbot went to bed, whatever, they went to bed like right around in the morning almost, because vigils usually take whatever, how many hours of chant. And then he has a vision, he had a dream that Christ is waking him up and saying, wake up and do the service for the feast, whatever feast. And the abbot was like, we just finished, let me sleep. We just finished in all the hours and chant and all this. It's like, no, I didn't hear anything. Get up and go do the service. He's like, what are you talking about? We had this like multiple young, monks and chanting and all of these beautiful hymns. He's like, yeah, but I did not hear God. Christ answers him and says, yes, but I did not hear the old man chanting. Because the difference is, the old man was chanting it from the heart. He's doing the best he can with what he has. They were more of the young monks, just like, yeah, it's all about like, I need to sing this 5-page, very complicated cherubic hymn, all of this. That doesn't mean that, well, I'm offering it from my heart, so it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, I don't need to learn. It's from my heart. I'm doing it for free. I've had people saying, oh, the church doesn't pay me. Why do I need to put any effort? I was like, well, if you keep that mentality, there's one way you're going. I'm not judging you here, but that's not how we approach things. But the point is, yes, it has to first come from the heart, that we're praying, that we're not doing, it's not just like for the sake of music that we're doing it. But also, it's not an excuse for us to say, oh, I don't need to learn. This is what I know, I've done my part. No, if you have the possibility, it's like the guy, the parable of the talents, right? God gave you a talent, you better work it out. You have the time, you gave you a talent, you better work it out. Look at the guy the one with the 1 talent. He didn't even lose it, look what happened to him. He just, I'm okay with what I have, just I don't want to lose it, I don't want to, and look how God reacted. So the point, we need to pray, we need to take care of ourselves, also spiritually, but also, what can we do to make it better? That's why Holy Pen takes these kind of initiation of, okay, what else can we do? What can we, and I heard you guys practice every Tuesday? Or at least?
Third Tuesday of the month.
Well, that's one time more than many churches who refuse to even get together, Just we go to Sunday, we
Well,
learn
after
what we
COVID, we realized we needed to start again.
Yeah, I mean, as much as you can, keep something. Would you ever go to a doctor who graduated in 1970 and you would know for sure, or even if you are a doctor, graduated in 1970 and never opened up a book after that to keep up with medicine, what comes out, would you expect, patients coming to you? I don't want to go to that doctor, right? The point is, we always need that sense of, okay, revising, studying, learning our own, spiritually and also musically, the best we can. Again, no one is like, unless you do this, you're somehow not allowed to change or something, God forbid. No, but like, if you can learn more, why not? think enough of,
Yeah.
enough of words and, right? And we do almost, yeah, we have, it's good. We're here till what, 1 a.m., we said?
Yeah. This went on standby, well, starting at 12. Press the button once.
Yeah.
There we go.
Ta-ta-ta-ta. So first, like I said, I just have this presentation, and if you can see, well, I'm 5'4", so you're always gonna see around me. What is Byzantine chant? History of Byzantine music. What is how we believe it came. What it came from. What was it affected by? And of course, something to keep in mind. The way we chant now is definitely not the way we used to chant 1,000 years ago. Technically, what we chant now is more from the 13th, 14th century. So 3-4 centuries before, and even before, different, we think. How different? We don't know much. We don't have that much of, we have notations. You'll see, I'll show you some historical manuscripts and stuff. But we don't know, we assume they sound like this, or some we just don't know. So there are two things that we at least we have nowadays that we have them in our hands. There's a musical composition called Sikilos Epitaph, and it's one of the oldest manuscripts that we have that shows music. It's a secular song. It talks about gods and stuff like this. But we know that most likely our music in the church, early church, that it was influenced by the notation and the sound. And the second thing that we know for sure that affected what's called Byzantine chant is the Jewish cantillation, or what we call now also intonation. Like the way we intone the epistle, the priest intones the gospel, or today is hung on a tree, or today is born of a virgin, those hymns common in the church. That's the Sikilos Epitaph. That's the oldest one. Of course, you'll see here it's a Greek text, but that's the translation. That's a rough translation of it. It says, "While you live, shine, don't suffer anything at all. Life is short and time demands its toll." And it's a longer one, but that's the main one. But why am I showing you this? If you notice, there are letters on top of these words. There's a picture actually, I just didn't include it here. It's actually found on a pillar. That was found. It's like 2 pillars that they just what's the word? Carved it. Yes, they carved the song on those pillars. And it's like I said, they did like 2 pillars filled, but this is like I guess the refrain. So the point of it, those letters on top of the Greek words. You'll see like a C, a Z, a Z, and then there's kind of whatever symbol on top, K-I-Z. Those meant the notation. So one of the earliest things for music, to use music or the type of notation, it would put letters, and each letter will mean some kind of a melody. This one, there are recordings. If you YouTube Sikilos Epitaph, you will hear some recordings of, recordings that say that's how it might sound. So there are, of course, some people might say no, some people you'll hear it different from different sources, and you might hear something different, but at least close. The point is, at the end, all we need to know that in the beginning, notations were symbolized, or the notation was written with letters. The letter will mean a melody. Short melody, long melody, whatever it is. But the point is, it just that's how it means a melody. And of course, the Jewish cantillation. Let me see if the sound works. It should work. Why not? Why there's no movement? Okay. Just like in old, for like a couple seconds. Let me see if it will work. Maybe. No. Do I need to do anything else, you think? I mean, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I don't know if, well, I know it's on 100, the sound here.
There's volume buttons on that.
On
You
here?
might be trying to bump it through there.
That's why they pay you the big bucks.
Volume.
Let's see, maybe, I don't know.
No, it's just not playing.
Yeah, it's not, you can see it, it's not.
Yeah. Look at it up right.
Yeah, it's not a problem. That's actually, I think that's the only thing that I have right now. Fine, no problem. So, Jewish cantillation, it's literally like what we do the epistle and the gospel. A little bit different now, of course. It's more, I can say, organized with the Jewish tradition, because that's the only thing they do. That's how they sing their songs. But at least as Christians, we are definitely influenced, especially in the early church, with that type of music, with the cantillation that the Jews use. What is Byzantine chant or Byzantine music? Definition: Byzantine music is the strictly vocal, strictly monophonic music used in the worship of the Orthodox Church. Right? You'll tell me that, but there's this, but there's this. Well, we're going to talk about those exceptions. And in Byzantine chant, there are many rules, and guess what? There are many more exceptions. Welcome to the Byzantine world, right? What does it make, what is the criteria of Byzantine chant? Why do I need, how can I call something Byzantine chant, right? If, to differ it from Gregorian chant, from Znameni chant, whatever it is. 7 things. Monophonic, right? And we'll talk about each one in a second. Monophonic, rough or vocal interpretation, we'll talk also about this. Serving the word, microtonal intervals, modality, law of melodic attractions, and last but not least, and it's a very important component, right? Is that the word, like a criteria? Thesis, it's a Greek word, it literally means melodic formula, melodies, and we'll see. Monophonic, absolute absence of parallel melodic lines, okay? But then people say, well, how about Eson? Right? It's like, what is this? We always hear, there's an Eson, isn't then the second voice? It's actually no. Eson is the tonic note of the tetrachord or pentachord in which the melodic line is moving. In general, again, rule of thumb, it's the bass melody of the bass note of that tone. But it's never been or never will be at the same volume or power as the music line, as the melody. It is to be this background music or background voice. So it's like if I'm going, while the stone was sealed by the Jews, if also I'm doing East, or if I'm doing the Eastern for someone like this, I'm not supposed to go the same power as, it's more of a again, it's like this background music. Never to sound like it's just a two-voice it's a two-voice melody. Like we have 4 parts, it's like a 2-part melody. Yes?
I was told that the Eson is the floor on which the melody dances.
Is the what?
The floor on which the melody dances.
That's the one way to put it, yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, because it's the bass.
Mm-hmm.
And it might change, there are rules, and there are, and by the way, again, I opened a lot of parentheses, but I'll try to go back. One of the things always people say, when somebody new wants to learn how to chant, it's like, oh, you want to learn to chant? Stand with those people who do Eson, and that's how, you need to learn Eson. It's actually the worst thing you do ever. First of all, you need to learn how to chant first before you do Eson. For just a practical reason. somehow you show up at church and the chanters are not there and the priest tells you, oh, we're gonna chant. You're like, no, Father, I'm the guy who stands and says, I don't know how to chant. Well, you've been doing it 40 years, 5 years. You always bring it at the ESOL. That's just the practical reason. But no, it's way more than this. In the end, you need to know how to chant, so you're not a parrot. You're just like, oh, okay. Why I went up? Why? Well, there's a science behind it. Why it changes? Why it should change? Why it should not change? So when you learn how to chant very well, then when you really know your chant stuff very well, then you can, okay, I can help with these. It's actually very hard when you have, especially in big choirs, 10 people chanting and 2 or 3 people doing ISO. You have like 10 people in your ear doing totally something like, imagine like all kinds of ups and downs, and you're trying to hold this one note. It's just like trying to hold by yourself, trying to hold a wall from, falling and all kinds of like rockets hitting it. But of course you just shake and then you just lose it most of the time. It's just like, okay, your pitch goes up, high, God only knows what, you forget that you're doing even Ison. The point is that Ison is just this background music, and you really need to be solid in the chant in order to hold it. Exceptions, if you listen to some Romanian chant or some Serbian chant, especially in Serbia, because they have this conflict, almost like what we have here between Russia and Greece, between the Russian tradition, music, like the Western music, and the Byzantine. So in a way now, they do this Byzantine chant, and you hear the Ison kind of like it's like this two-part Byzantine chant, because the Ison is just like more like powerful. And I think it's just because they have, I was in Serbia in 2018, I think, 18. And it was, I was with His Eminence, and we went on the side and they're welcoming the patriarch and all of this, but the point, I was like, oh, I don't feel like I'm away from home, because here are the chanters and the choirs and the loft, and then they're like, it's like mine, no yours, and they're trying to like figure out like who's doing what and all of this. So it's like, oh, I feel like I'm home, with all these. But you hear them singing with the chant, it's like more powerful piece. But in general, historically, and like authentic chant, the Ison is like this background. And you might have many different schools of thoughts on the Ison. Some schools of thoughts that they try to play with the Ison much, as it almost sounds like it's a second voice, but technically it's the simplest, like the bass note of that tetrachord. Those like 4 notes, or pentachord, those 5 notes that are. But still, it does not take away that it's monophonic, one melody. Rough, what does that mean? Rough quality. Chanted words are pronounced more naturally, as if in regular speech, without rounding or other musical intervention. There's just lately, that you'll see in some schools of Byzantine chant that they try to teach you how to stand and what to do with your chest, and and like how to breathe and how to breathe in, and like your awe has to be like whatever it is, and like before. I mean, even a lot of authentic schools, they're just, as long as you pronounce the words right. So, just like this, a lot of times when you hear you see professional singers or something, they're just like the way they round up, because it's very, and it's not bad. I'm not saying, not saying it's bad, because what's the point? What good about if I chant like, well, the Jews and the soldiers, like we still have to pronounce the words, but it's never been about like, stand like this, 1 foot in front, like, and round up, your O's and E and all this, like, it just, in Byzantine, never been like a criteria that you really need to work on. Like, for many years, schools would not even offer any kind of voice lessons. It's like, oh yeah, that's why sometimes you might hear people like blasting, their voice in chant. And people say like, oh my gosh, they're too loud, and they can't but it's always been like, whatever your natural voice, just, let it out. But the point is, at the end, again, it's never been that part of the music of Byzantine chant that you have to stand like this, hold the book like this, round, your mouth, every letter, just not part. Although you need to know how to control your voice in a way. You need to know how to breathe, or else, especially Holy Week. My first few years at the chant stand, never made it to Palm Sunday, Holy Monday, voice is gone, hoping, get a little bit of it on Friday, and then Saturday, Pascha, it's always a struggle. Because it's just but it's like you want to find that way of, of taking care of your voice, and know how to at least not put pressure on your throat, or, but it's never been part of I would only sing my part and that's it, or that's what I should do. So it is kind of just be yourself. Third, the word. Music is a mean used to bring out and illuminate the meaning of the text. At the end of the day, the music is there to serve the word, to serve the text. Now you're going to tell me, but we have some hymns in Byzantine that, I don't know, communion hymns. Literally they're one sentence, few words, 5, 6 words. And then in the Byzantine tradition, authentic compositions for communion hymns, 3, 4 pages of music for that 1 minute. But there are ways they go around it, and there are reasons why they do that. We'll talk a little bit about it later. But at the end of the day, the music is to serve the word. You want to end up, at least after you're done, people, or you and the people, at least heard and understood the text. So at the end of the day, it's not about the melodies that's going to, save you or not. It's just those words that they're going to teach you about the faith, not the music itself. So music is just a way to help you understand. Exception. There's what's called, and we're going to use you might hear a lot of Greek words, and it's fine because we have a lot of names. That's what that's the official name of it. Like in Western music, you have crescendo, this whatever, all these Italian names, right? I mean, there's always a meaning of it, but as long as we know the concept of it, it's fine. So there is this exception called the kratimata, which basically, I don't know if you've heard of these things. Literally, the chanters or the choir will be singing literally terirems or tendenna. Tarira, 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 riramra, tarirem. No words that make sense. And that's a whole study. It's more of a monastic practice in long vigils to make that even longer, where they would sing a hymn in specific places, not any hymn, not just I'm just gonna start blasting these non-syllabic thing in the middle of through the intercessions of the Theotokos in the beginning of liturgy. No, that's maybe Holy God, communion hymns. There are specific places where literally you're saying non-syllabic words, literally teriren or tendena, those words. And there's a whole thing about it. We can discuss it different time, or you can read about it. It's just in general to say that at some point it flourished in the 13th, 14th century, because that was the 13th, 14th centuries, those 100, 200 years before the fall of Constantinople, where Byzantine chant kind of flourished, a lot of things. So that part of the terirems, the kratimata, were more of it's art, but to the point to explain that at some point, no words can ever describe our God. So when we say he's merciful, he's just not merciful. He's more merciful. He's the most ever, whatever word. So it's no words can describe God anymore, to the point we're uttering just whatever, words, because there's nothing to say. Again, some bishops through the centuries forbade them, like no way anybody is using any of this, and some bishops encourage them. Do we encourage them in our parishes? No. But like, it is, you might be in some concerts, you might be in some churches that, and sometimes they might add these things, the teriyams. But just, then you'll be like, where's the text in here? It's more of like embellishing the melody and making the service longer. A lot of, in the monastic tradition, Byzantine monasteries, they might do that, especially when in vigils that they want to make sure they're not, they have to go for, they don't want to end before 4 o'clock in the morning. So they add them in those specific places. Again, no one is expected.
We have one piece that does that. We have a setting by
Oh,
Dalek of the communion hymns that
that's interesting.
part of the communion hymn. And I'm always like, why is this here?
Oh,
Because you say the words and then the rest of it is all
and but it's not part of the words.
No, it's just
Just like wow, that's like in the wow. So you'll see
Yeah, it's
in
by
Arabic,
Dalek, yes.
Like
It's
Arabic, Greek, it's like those. But even if like in Serb, whatever language you're still using those words, teria and
Oh,
tendon.
no, we're not using
Roll,
those
total.
words, sorry.
But like,
No,
but yeah,
but it's
but
just
the point, but it's the same concept.
Yeah, it's just
So that's the,
Yeah. I always feel bad giving it to someone because I can't explain why those words were there. Now I know, but I didn't know that.
yeah.
It was
But
like,
you
why
read,
is this here?
and you really, when you read about it, bishops through the centuries really were adamant about like, no way you're using any of this. And some bishops like, hey, sounds nice, fine. As long as you do it where you're supposed to do it. Give me in him, holy God, what else? In Orthros you can with the Polydelion. So it's like in very specific, not like I said, through the intercessions of the Theotokos or save us or Son of God and somehow let me just now take a break and just do for 10 minutes of like Terry Rams or something. That's not the place for it. Next thing, microtonal intervals. The distance between two successive notes is often smaller or even wider than the Western semitone. Okay, and we're going to look at those numbers and stuff when it comes to the soft chromatic scale, hard chromatic scale, and harmonic scale. I'll show you in numbers at least, so you can hopefully see the difference. Fifth thing, modality. Use of 8 modes, right? A great number of scales with countless variations in the intervals. And I'll tell you exactly, I have a small section here about what it means, the countless variations in the intervals. But we have in Byzantine chant, how many tones? All modes? 8. And I don't know if you know this. Who's the father of Byzantine chant? Who's considered like the father?
I want to say Socrates, but I'm not sure.
Not Byzantine chant. But you know, which I can see why you would say this. But at least in the church.
I have no idea.
Socrates, huh? Socrates.
He has a name the same as your church here, but he's just not the same.
John of Damascus?
John of Damascus.
Ooh.
John of Damascus is the father of Byzantine chant. The patron saint of chanters, Saint Romanos, or or other chanters that Saint Cyril. But the father of Byzantine chant is Saint John of Damascus, and we believe that he's the one who wrote the book Opteikos, at least who started it, the book of the 8 tones. He's the one who started it, put it together, and we know that he took it. And here's why, did you say Socrates, or who did you say first?
Socrates.
Socrates, yeah. Because we believe that he took those 8 modes from the 15 modes of like the Greek Byzantine culture. So they were 15 tones, common ones, at that time, around him in the 8th century. And he took 8 of them and kind of shaped them more appropriately to fit church melody. So it's not like, the music of a nightclub, down the street. And the reason I say this, because even till now, you can hear a lot of Arabic music, that if you hear it, you'll be like, oh, this is literally tone 1.
Yeah.
This is tone 4.
Greek music the same way.
Exactly. All of this like music from Persia, Iran, Asia Minor, Greece, Middle East. A lot of the songs would be like, the only difference is when you see the compositions and the way you do them and all of this, you'll see like the difference. So St. John Damascus took those 15 tones, chose 8 of them, which there's a reason why 8, right?
Yeah.
It's always this 8, like it's the day after, the day after the resurrection, like the perfect day after the 7th day. So there's always this number 8. Anyway, he took it, he took those 15 tones or modes and then made them 8, shaped them to fit the church ambiance, if I can say. Okay?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure?
Being a couple of us are from Annunciation Greek Orthodox Church,
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning to chant there, and of course it's 1, 2, 3, 4, then plagal, 1, 2, 3. Do you know why they call it plagal? Because they are the same 8 tones, but, similar. But I don't understand why they call them plagal.
Yeah, good question. Plagal, if I want to translate it to like an easier word, it's like a brother or a sibling. So we have the official names actually of those 8 modes are first tone or first mode, whatever, second, third, fourth, plagal of the first, which literally you can replace plagal with brother of the first or sibling of the first, sibling of the second, grave mode,
Right.
and sibling of the fourth. Which means 1 and 5, the Arabs, for whatever reason, when they took, translated these things, they just probably did not want to use the word plagal, kind of translated into brother or sibling. But they just, let's just do 1 through 8. But officially, we have the first tone, second, third, fourth, the brother of the first, the brother of the second, grave mode. It's not called the brother of the third, because I'll tell you in a second, at least in general why and fast. And then the plagal of the brother of the fourth, or the sibling, because I don't want to say brother, like why not sister? It's like, I don't know, you're disrespecting women and you're like acknowledging women. You have to be careful nowadays. What are you gonna do? So siblings, I'm trying to be as much as sibling, because tone 1 and tone 5, they literally like 2 brothers. They have the same parents. They look a lot like together, each other. But at the end of the day, they're 2 different persons. So 5 at the end is very close to 1. 6 is very close to 2. 8 is very close to 4. But tone 7, it's actually the official name grave mode. So the grave. We're all going to end up, at some point in it. It's not called the plagal of the third because they're not brothers, they're more like cousins. Like first cousins. So it's like, they have some similarities, but they come from their parents are different. They come the same roots, but they have so many differences that it doesn't make them siblings.
7 always seemed close to 8 to me whenever going through it. Just without the bottom.
One aspect of 8, yes. Yes, because both close to 1. That's why there's so much difference between 3 and 7 to call them siblings.
Right.
And so they give them the name grave. Why grave? What do they call, I don't know, the salvation tone, the whatever word, why would they choose grave?
Was it used at funerals?
No, but you're onto something. You're always into just. It's just
Some of the text.
Close to the grave also means serious.
Yes.
grave. Yeah, but
I mean,
it's literally.
serious though, when you
Sure.
say something that's very grave.
But some of the texts have to do with the day that Jesus died, was,
A lot of the hymns in tone 7 from the, what we do Saturday night, Vespers and Sunday Orthros, they talk a lot about
the women go into the grave, and the grave had a gravestone, and the grave had an angel in it, and there's this word grave that is very common. Besides that, it's the bass note of it is like the zo, the low B. Ta-ra-ram, di-si-bi. This kind of like low note, maybe. But in a way, it's the text of, because each tone speaks about something. Speaks about like either feeling, like that's why in Pascha, or Easter, 90% of the hymns are in what, 99%, tone 1 or 5. Why? Because they're the happy tones, the victorious, the triumphal tones. So in tone 7, it's called grave officially, because a lot of talk about the word grave. The word grave is very common in those hymns. Again, the women went to the grave, the women saw there's a huge stone covering the grave, all of these, and that's why it's given a grave.
It's used with probably the most serious texts in the royal hours of Nativity and Good Friday.
We have,
Ninth hour.
yes, and we have it even in Holy Week too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even in Holy Week, we have some hymns in Saturday.
Yeah.
Usually, again, more it got the name grave because of those hymns of the Arasmatario, of the Saturday.
When Mary stood at that grave.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The resurrection.
Exactly. When do you hear the word grave? Or at least, I don't know.
The soldiers stood at that tomb when it's a.
This one, very specific that they use the word grave. In general, that's why, that's what we have those 8 tones. Laws of melodic attractions. Non-dominant notes are attracted towards dominant ones. Every tone has a bass note and what's called dominant notes. So it's like you have one bass note, and we'll see that later when I show you the scale. But every tone has a bass note. Like in tone 1, it's the pa, or the D, equivalent in Western. But there are also other notes that they're dominant. They're not the bass, but they're very obvious in that tone, common. So in tone 1, you have the pa and the D and the G. So usually, anytime there's a stop on that G, because the melodies, so when you're chanting something, usually at the end, if it's a sentence, whenever you have a comma in that sentence, the music usually it's on that dominant note. Why? Because whenever you have a comma, it's like, the meaning hasn't ended yet, right? So it's like the melody will stop on one of the dominant. If you're a good composer, whenever you have a comma in the text, you're not finishing the melody. You're putting a melody that's kind of like, okay, tell me what's coming. It's not the meaning hasn't ended yet. So you put those dominant, every tone has a dominant note. And then when at the end of the sentence you have that period where usually the period is going to have musically you're going to be on the bass note. And meaning ended, and then you start all over again, right? So with those dominant notes, like in tone 1, let's say, the G is the dominant note, right? While the stone was sealed by the Jews. It's like, yeah, you can't go, if you write it, while the stone was sealed by the Jews. Wrong. The melody's nice, but like the feeling of it, whenever you're going to
Take a breath every time.
yeah, but also when you're stopping on this D back, back on the G, the meaning ended. But like while the stone was sealed by the, tell me what happened. Like there's no way, it is not a full sentence, right? So the law of melodic attraction is, so this note, there's always that note that before this dominant note. So in the case of tone 1, the G, what is the note right before it? F or Ra. Usually this is affected, it's a little bit sharp. Now we're going like a little bit more technical in this. But in theory, the note that is right before that dominant note of whatever tone, in the case of tone 1, it's the Ra, because the G is the dominant note, or the F is the G is the definite note, the dominant note, so the F is right, the note before it. The F is, it's attracted toward this this dominant note. This is this is in general. I don't expect you Now, if you don't read music, or you don't know those, it will be, it's just hard to like imagine it. But I still have to mention it as part of the criteria. You can't just do it natural. You're gonna sharpen it a little bit without even the need to put, if you read music, to put a sharp note. Like it's, the second you see it, well, like if I have a G, F, G, let's say, in tone 1, this F is gonna be sharp.
One thing I've noticed, at least trying to keep up with, if I like put on like some professional chanters or something and try to keep along with them, I find that it's impossible to do so unless you're kind of like falling forward and building momentum towards these notes. It's a weird feeling to describe, but all this chant, like you can't breathe properly unless you're falling forward with everything you're chanting. Like that's just what it feels like to me. Like all music is just falling and it's not stopping, rolling down the hill, building momentum towards that.
That's what we're going to talk in a couple of minutes. In Byzantine chant, I'll talk about it in a second.
This is a weird thing I've noticed with this, and this kind of.
It's not weird,
This
it's
is what
part of it.
I know. This is weird to me now because this is what I've been thinking, trying to keep up, and now it's like written.
I hope what I'm going to say after will convey what we're saying.
Yeah.
And if no, we can definitely talk more about this. And then last but not least, which is very, it's a core thing in Byzantine chant, this. It's a criteria, it's you cannot call it Byzantine chant unless, well, it has to have all the other ones, but it must have this. What's called theses, which means melodic formulas specific for each of the 8 modes and their different styles. Melodies. A lot of times we think about chant as if just like note, 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 note. Just, but it's not like this. It's actually melodies, 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 melodies. The same concept, which I'm gonna hopefully make it easier for you to understand and know exactly what I'm talking about. Like language, like words and alphabets and sentences. How do you read the word? I was like, I give the word resurrection, but how do you read this when you read resurrection? You read it resurrection, right? How many times nowadays, like, if I hide this and you're reading here, what would be the option? Like, you kind of anticipate what it is, right? Because it's English, it's our language, so it's going to be one of two things. Either resurrection or resurrected, right? But at least you anticipate that. How many of us need to read every single syllable when they're reading the text in English? Have you seen those tests where they give you the first 3-4 syllables and they mess up the last syllable, but you end up reading the text very well? Why?
Your brain's trained. Your brain's trained to it.
Yes. You're so familiar with that. Well, guess what? Byzantine chant is like that. It's not about like and then z, rek, shan. It's like resurrection. So literally those notes, when they come together, I anticipate those words, those melodies. So when I hear tum in tone 8, common melody, tum, la 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 la. That's a very common melody in tone 8. If I hear, all I need to hear, la 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 la, I know, I don't need the rest anymore. I know it's going to be la 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 la, because it cannot be la 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 la. It's like literally going like resurrect 4. It won't make sense. It's English letters, and I'm going to give you all those examples to see. But that's why in Byzantine, it's all about those melodies. Okay? And in 2019, I think, I came up with, so I'm giving you something I presented in 2019, but hopefully we'll see if it worked anyway. Nice. So, here, this. back at seminary, I graduated from Holy Cross Seminary in Boston. All of us, very few of us read Western music, Western notation. So all of us there, students, read Byzantine. So, but every year we would have the American, we have the Independence Day, the Greek Independence Day, and we would do whatever things, or if there are any other events that we have to sing both national anthem, the Greek and the American one, we needed music for it. I mean, yes, we knew it by heart, all of this, but we still needed, especially, we had people like who came, if they were international students, or if they don't know it by heart. Anyway, the point is, our chant teacher at Holy Cross wrote our national anthem here in Byzantine notation for us to follow. So, and that's, I mean, I didn't put the whole thing, but we had the whole thing. I posted it once, many years ago, on July 4th. And now people like, I mean, it's everywhere. A lot of them have it. It just happened that I posted it, and now it always shows up. Somebody like, by the way, if you need a Byzantine notation, just think, I don't know, you might need it somewhere. But the point, why do I use it? Why do I use it? Just a FYI thing. Well, of course, this is the Byzantine notation, right? And this here, when you read it and you see those keys, those symbols, to tell you, literally, it's like, oh, it's tone 8. It just has the feeling of tone 8. La, 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 la. So, literally, the, vo, di, vo, di, ni, vo, pa, ni, vo, ra, di. So, literally, I can chant it solfège in Byzantine. But the problem, that does not make it Byzantine for a simple reason. Simple reason. You do not have melodies that actually define tone 8 here. This sequence of melodies, ta 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 ta, it's not a melody, it's not in the glossary, it's not in the dictionary of tone 8 language. So yes, it is Byzantine notation, but it does not make it Byzantine hymn. Okay? That being said, we have alphabets, right? Words. Letters everywhere. How about this? Can you read this sentence for me, please? No. Although each letter is in English, right? N, I, T, N, G, I, H, E, E, V, Y, R. Oh, these are English. But why? These are not words that we know, right? Not words acknowledged in the English language. French and English use the same alphabet, but not every word in English can be used in French. Here and there you might catch a word, right? Table, table, at least, some words. But in general, in some language, it might make sense, maybe, but at least in English, it does not.
Come on.
How about now? Is it a good sentence or no?
No.
No.
Why? Well, I'm using words. In, everything, way, be, a, orderly, should, but, done, fitting, end. These are English words. But does it make sense? Why? They need to come in a specific order, right? So not only the words need to be in a specific, like the word has to make sense, but also the words together have to make sense to come to form a sentence, right? So, how about now?
Yes.
But this is the same. This is all along. It's the same thing. The one before it, I played with the order, and the one before it, the first one, I played with the letters of each one. And it's the same concept in Byzantine chant. That every tone has, I can say, thousands of melodies. Thousands of melodies. For a specific style, if it's fast, slow, slower, all of this. Nothing is just like, I woke up today, And I'm just like throwing those notes out there. And that's what Byzantine chant is. No. The same concept as in a language. With the time, we'll have words coming up, right? New words show up. Now, so you'll have new words showing up, some words might fall of use, because whatever, it's not anymore, there's no reason to use that word. And the same thing with those melodies. So literally when we look at Byzantine chant, it's literally a language. So with these thousands of melodies, each melody fit a specific number of syllables. So we have those. How do we compose? You know how we compose? We rely on these thousands of melodies that we either expose to them from, all the books that we have, or the chant books that we have for major feasts, from the Anas Mataro, for the hymns of Saturdays and Sundays, all of this. And also, actually lately, a few years ago, St. Anthony's Monastery. Anybody familiar with St. Anthony's Monastery in Arizona, Flores, Arizona? Papa Ephraim, one of the monks who was there, literally codified all of these, or codified thousands of these melodies for each tone. Literally sat down for years. Each tone, each style of each tone. And picked up, like, okay, tone one, pop, 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 pop. Melodies for 2 syllables, melodies for 3 syllables, melody for 4 syllables, melody for 5 syllables.
Wow.
And all these melodies to fit a specific number of syllables, accented on a specific place. So the word resurrection, how many syllables? Resurrection. So, and where is it accented? Resurrection, on the 3rd. If I'm doing it in tone 1, it could happen that I'm composing a hymn and it's in tone 1, well guess what? I need to go look for a melody that actually fits 4 syllables, and so I'm not jamming things, so I'm not jamming notes, whatever, melodies that only fit 2, syllables, and accented also on the 3rd. Same thing if I have a word, 5 syllables, 3 syllables, all of this. So, and that's the concept. And then at the end, you find a word, to fit, or you find a melody to fit that word. Well, guess what? You have to worry about the next word and how many syllables, how many syllables. But also, you want the melody of this resurrection to fit also with the melody of whatever the second word. Like somehow they go together, so you don't have the problem with this. So you want actually this melody to also kind of flow with this one, and this one flows with the other one. That's why composing, it's not easy. And I can dare to say this now. A lot of times what we do in Byzantine chant is like, hey, again, like I told you in the beginning, start here, finish there, whatever you do in between, yeah. Sometimes that's what we have to do. Sometimes we don't have the music, to chant from. Sometimes, well, I'm learning music, I can't do all of the, of course, we need, we'll have to work on this, but of course we deal with what we have. But never been that this is the norm. We had somebody contacted the Department of Music a few months ago, literally wanted the Department of Music to sponsor or kind of, like sponsor, like basically, not sponsor. What is it? Host, or basically, kind of like gives its
Mandate.
yeah, or like endorse. Thank you. Kind of endorse that book. Thank you. Thank you. Endorsed his book, which literally, just start here, finish here, and that's all you need to know. They're just like, with all the respect, that's CRAP. Big time. This is wrong. This is just, imagine, now I pretend to know English, and I'm going to create my own words. And like I said, I'll just, now everybody must in America, the fact that I say resurrection, that's what the word resurrection means. Or whatever word, you know. So you come up with a, so when you chanting from text, that's a lot of times that's how it sounds to some people, if they know what they do. Like, oof, how did this come with this? And like, mixing those melodies and coming up. But again, I'm not taking the reality sometimes. That's what we have, especially in English. We don't, I mean, thank God now we have way more than we had 10 years ago in music, you know, in compositions. But sometimes it's made, like, people have the opportunity to learn, people have the means and all of this, but somehow music limits me. I need to express, you know, just do whatever the heck I want. Or else this music, I'm like being trapped with these melodies. It's just like literally saying like whatever words, and somehow this is English, you know. But it's my own type of English that everybody should. Why don't I understand what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So these things definitely to keep in mind. At the end, again, that's like an end goal. At the end, to see what it is, what the music at the end is. So here I'm just giving you an example. See those, like, if you read the music, pam, pa, ta, ra, 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 la, la, la. I can't even, it just literally, you're reading, if I, well, I am reading it. It's just like literally throwing, you know, throwing, just throwing things like, it's hard to read this. And the same thing here with although these are English letters, but we're not familiar with them. There's no word in English that it is this. Same thing, we don't have sequence in tone 1, let's say, of melodies like pa, vi, vo, kezo, vi, vi, pom. There's no melody like this. So somehow if I'm going to sing it, oh Lord, I have cried unto thee. There's something is wrong. That's not Byzantine chant. That you know, maybe in some language this melody is fine. Like, you know, oh say, can you see? Beautiful in Western. But that's not, doesn't make it Byzantine, right? So how can we make it a little bit better, but not good? Oh Lord, I have cried unto thee. Now it's a better fine as a melody, but what's wrong with this?
Doesn't flow. Doesn't flow.
Yes, and also, look at the text. When you chant, what did we say? The word has the primacy, right? Would you ever read this sentence? Because the way I'm singing it, it should reflect how I read it. Would you ever read the sentence, O Lord, I have cried unto thee? Because technically here, this word is accented, have, and to. I shouldn't. What I need to accent is what?
Lord.
Lord cried thee, right? That's what you look. In good compositions, that's how, and that's what we tell people, if you're really stuck, you don't have music to chant from, make sure, at least to keep in mind, read the text before, make sure you know these keywords, and accent those keywords, the verb, the noun, what's important. How about this one? Pum, Ravi, 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 Ravi. D, G, F, G, A, G, F, G. It's a perfect melody of tone 1. And when I see it, ta-ra, I know that's what I'm expecting. This is a melody here. Wow, yes. This is literally a melody in tone 1 that fits 2 syllables, accented on the second here, O Lord. And then, I have ta 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 ta. This literally, this is a melody. All I need to see, da da da, and I know I don't need to see this anymore. Da 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 da. I know what's coming because I'm so familiar with that typical melody. Like I'm so familiar with an English text that when I'm reading a story, whatever, I'm reading something, newspaper, I can anticipate those syllables. Okay? So, and what is it accented here? Oh Lord, I have cried out unto thee. And I'm accenting what I'm supposed to accent. So when I hear it, or the person hearing it, knows exactly the same way I'm reading it. Right? Because when I read it, I have to read it. Oh Lord, I have cried out unto thee. Or cried out, in this case, actually you can even still the accent out. But the point, you understand it. Okay? At least, again, we can't say something we can learn now, all of this. But I do want people to know the concept of what is this music, come from, how it works. That's, anyway, questions, comments, complaints?
Father,
Sir, yes, sir.
with these theses,
Hmm.
where do they originate? I mean, are we still using like St. John of Damascus?
So, beautiful question. It's like languages. We have languages. I don't know if of course, especially someone whose English is not his first language, a lot in the beginning I'm Googling, what does this word mean, right? The dictionary.com and all this. And I realized especially on Google, they give you kind of the origin of that word, and sometimes where or when it was common, more common, that this word origin started showing up in the 1700s, and it somehow it got fell out of use, in the beginning of the 20th century or so. So the point at the end, those melodies with the time, they started, it's like languages where we have them literally from the 10th century, 10th, 11th century, that composers started making, these melodies, and with the time, new words or new melodies started coming in, as long as they sound right with the words, they still follow rules, specific, the rules of Byzantine chant. Now I'll give you an example. Byzantine chant was written, was done for the Greek language, right? There's a reality, because all the texts that were used in, of course, in the Orthodox Church from the beginning, it was Greek. So when they made that music, they made it for the Greek language. But there was a concept, the concept of, let's look at the Greek word, that many syllables, accented on that number, or this on the third, fourth, first syllable, whatever it is. So they came out with this, those faces. And with the time, you had new words. Okay? New words in the theology, new words about the saints, whatever it is. So they started adding more melodies. And then you have Arabic by the 18th century, early 18th century, mid 18th century. You had now text, at least in the Middle East, in Lebanon and Syria, that about hymns in Arabic. And they needed to write music for them in Arabic. What did they used to do? They would, let's say this is, let's say we have this melody, and now they need to put the Arabic, so they started okay, just let's wipe the English and put Ya, Ra, I, Lai, Ka, Sa, Ra. So, let's wipe the Greek and put Arabic. And it sounded awful. Why? Doesn't fit. Whatever word in the Greek, that might be 5 syllables, you translate it into Arabic, it's 3 syllables now. So guess what? We have to come up with something. So in Greek, we might have words that, up to 5 syllables, but in English or in Arabic, you have some that there's 7 or 8 syllables. What are you going to do? You have to create more melodies. How do you create that? We do that now in English, because English is very monosyllabic. Oh Lord, I have cried.
It's very staccato.
Yeah, but look, I said 5 words, and they're one syllable, one syllable, one syllable, one syllable, one syllable, right? Oh Lord, I have, or God is the Lord and hath appeared. Thank God appeared got 2 syllables. Unto us. Like, just 10 words, 1 syllable. So sometimes it's hard to like, okay, what do we do with this? You know, we don't have formulas accommodate 1 syllable like this. We have to like, literally what we do now with the compositions, we take half of a formula, let's say, we take this part, and then instead of this part, we might need to do this part. And this part, we eliminate. But as long as it still flows, still like, okay, it's not breaking rules and all this. So it takes a lot of time, especially in English. So in Arabic, it took them from the 1700s-ish till a guy named Mitri al-Moor came in the late 1800s, the second half of the 1800s, who kind of like, okay, let me take a step back and not anymore wipe the Greek and put Arabic, which is going to sound awful, and that's what a lot of happened here in the States.
Yep.
Because then, God rest his soul, a great asset, like a great treasure, but he made a lot of mistakes like this. He would wipe out the Arabic and try to imitate or follow the Arabic melody and just put English words. Not good. So people, what do they, like good composers, take a step back. Let's look at the text, see where's the accentation, like where are these accented syllables. So, like, an example, oh Lord, I have pride. Because then I wrote it for the Saturday one, tone 8. Oh Lord, right? If you look at this book, that's how we wrote it. But we took it from the Arabic or the Greek. Kyrie or Ya Rabbi. But the problem is, it happened that in Greek and Arabic, it's a melody, this melody like da 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 da, it's for a 3-syllable melody or word. In English, you only have, oh Lord. So you can't just say,
Lord.
right? So if you want to do it well, you cannot sing anymore. Oh Lord, as if now oh is more important than Lord. Oh got like 7, 8 notes, and Lord like Lord. It's like make sure you hear the word oh. Right? So a good composition will be like, okay, I know this is what it's in Greek. I know this is a beautiful melody in Arabic. You know, like this, but in English,
It's a beautiful melody. It's a beautiful melody.
Yeah, but it just
It's a big-
does not fit oh Lord. So, oh Lord, I have pride, and Tornay probably should have done like, oh Lord, I have pride unto thee, or something. So the point is, you want to decide like, oh Lord, right? So you have to find a melody. So a lot of times what we did with this, as like a language, words sometimes will stop popping because to accommodate whatever situation you have. So who approved these words? Like, so can I now make a word and just I'll make up a word and like somehow next day it needs to be added to the dictionary? No, there's still people need to like use it, see if they accept it. I mean, a lot of time now, did you Google it? Since when Google is a verb, right? It's in the Urban Dictionary probably or something, right? Yeah, Facebook me, or something. Facebook message me. Since when is Facebook message me is a verb, right? Maybe in 50 years we might have that. Maybe somehow Google becomes not just a name but also it's a verb, and we're gonna parse it and all of this. But so those melodies will come out, and then the people who are good at these things, when they accept it, or they, that's why whenever anybody composes something, like in English or whatever language, you really take it, you'll have to like, I run it, at least in my case, in a lot of cases, you run it by people who know what they're doing. You edit it. Like, edit it. It's like same thing whenever you write a novel or something, whatever, you run it by people, edit it. doesn't make sense here, I don't really, can understand here, change this, change that. Or you know what, I know this is what the formula said, but really it's not fitting here. You probably need to use half of it. And even when you use half of it, half that melody, it still fits, it still flows. And then, people, do they reject it or they accept it? And that's why in Byzantine chant, there are 7,000 probably versions of cherubic hymns in English. Some good, some bad. How do you know what's good and what's bad? It's like what people like really looking forward to sing something like that, the good part. Like if it's good, people will use it. Good, people professional will approve it. Will use it too. If it's bad, it will die. Give it some time, and it's gonna die. So that's what I can say, at least, what you do with, who came up with these melodies. So in America now, maybe the next 20-something years, 30 years, we might have our own melodies. Because we have to, at the end, serve the English language. And we're doing as much as the best we can. But a lot of times, especially in the department, music department, a lot of stuff, like we don't want to use gazans, whatever. I mean, some stuff, of course, we can still use. Some stuff, like, just bad. But then we try to go to the other sources already. It's just too much embellished for the English language. We literally had to go through this with the prokimenon of the Lenten, the first and third Sunday prokimenon of Lent. Turn not thy face away from me, from thy servant. It's like whatever we had on the website before, it was just like chopped off, like just very badly put together. But then, okay, let's go see what so we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Let's look at other resources. We look at St. Anthony's, as much as 99% of stuff at St. Anthony's is great, but with this one, it was just too much for the English language, that every word is, it's like they preserved the Greek melody, but then the problem that you have here is like, turn is like repeated 3-4 times. Away multiple times, just to preserve the same melody as the Greek. So it's just too much. In Greek it made sense because turn is like 4 or 5 syllables, not just one syllable in English. So we were like, you know what, let's write our own. And we actually just finished one that was in between, to serve more of the English language. So some stuff, the next 20-something years, probably that's what we're going to keep doing. There is this wave of like, no, let's keep those beautiful hymns in Arabic or in Greek, the melodies, because they're so beautiful. It's like, yes, they are. It's not like they're killing the language. Now it's about the melody, it's not about the language. And like we're going to see, sometimes, well, not sometimes, we have a reality in some of our hymns. The fact where they are in the service, they need to be chanted in a certain way. You can't just have a cherubic hymn and sing it syllabic like this. It's called to be papatic, melismatic, embellished, long. Well, we need to work, see how we still need it, not because it's English somehow or whatever, like we're going to make it much smaller or shorter or syllabic, or we're going to change its style. We still have to figure out how to do these things with the mind that we need to respect and the primacy for the word, without repeating too much word just because we wanted to preserve the Greek and the Arabic melodies. That's something I really struggled with. Well, not struggled, but like we faced and we fought. We've had composers, good composers, but they would take the hymn in Greek or in Arabic because it's a common hymn, and they wanted exactly to sound exactly the same in English. It's like, you can't just hymn now. Whatever you're gonna do, whatever, you're given the primacy to the music, where the words are gonna be lost. You're accenting, you might not accented or have, or this, you can't do that.
Father,
As much as it's good it's nice, look at this beautiful melody, in Arabic or in Greek, but you need to get the point. Well, it was done for that language. at the end, to make you understand that text better in English or in Greek or in Arabic, not in English. It's not about like, the melody was so beautiful. Like, okay, what did you chant? What did you pray? I don't know. Well, again, those notes are not gonna save you.
Father Apostle Hill does a very good job, I think.
Who?
Father Apostle Hill.
Oh, well, he's one of the first people. Actually, he's the first one when I first came to the state. And I was like, I just need to hear some Byzantine chant. All I hear is Western, with all respect. I'm not saying that's not a complaint, but somebody who was only immersed in Byzantine, and he was my first resources to listen.
He seems to do at least a lot of the CDs that I have. I listen to his. He does exactly what you're saying. Is that he takes the English words, and sometimes or English language. He forms the melody around that, and sometimes he substitutes different words that have the same meaning, but they're synonyms of what we have to make it work.
You have to sometimes.
Yeah.
And there's a whole
Yeah.
thing about this whenever what's called the original melodies. We can talk about, I mean, if we have.
That's gonna be the next question, but.
One thing I've noticed with English particularly, and I noticed this with chanters who are like, whenever I listen to them, that are like Greek or Arabic in origin and try to chant in English with a Greek or Arabic accent, that changes how the music itself comes out based off of how you pronounce.
When you say accent, just so I can,
like your
like,
pronunciation of the English,
oh Lord, I have cried out, you know, something like
I feel like a lot of why some of this stuff kind of gets messed up into English is because you have an ear that hears English differently.
Yes,
And then Americans hear it and then it's different to them.
Yes, I can relate to this. You know, one time one of the first times that I was at the cathedral in New York, St. Nicholas, there was this chanter there at the chant stand. I'm like, I thought this guy was born here. I was like, why is he just heavy accent?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I really thought that this guy, like I heard about him before, but I never, like, that he chants in in that area and all this, and I'm like, so at the end of the village, I was like, oh my gosh, he's speaking perfect English. So I went up to him, I was like, what is that with accent, as if like you're not born here? He's like, well, I just want to make sure my Byzantine chant is better like this. If I literally chant with an Arabic accent, I was like, seriously? I'm like dying to like try to pronounce each word like how it should be done in English. And then I'm like, so the point, you just chant with the Byzantine, with like the English accent. Like you don't just pretend like, oh, somehow if I chant with an accent as if like now I don't speak, I'm not native English speaking, somehow it's going to make my chant better. It's just not. I mean, the music, those melodies will fit any language. At the end of the day, if you know Chinese and you know how the accents go and all of this, you can fit it into Byzantine chant. Now there are those nuances, there are sort of those ornamentations, like at the end of the day we don't read, so the way it's written here, like, oh Lord, I have cried out unto thee. But in Byzantine, regardless what the language is, oh Lord, I have cried out unto thee. We add those ornamentations, but those regardless what the music, what the language is. So it's just not like Arabic or Greek, but if we're chanting in English, make sure you try to pronounce English.
So
not like.
Did he have a New York accent in his chant?
Well, you know, he does have a very heavy New York accent when you speak it. And there's like you can tell exactly that he's from New York. But when the chant was like, it's like I really thought that you were born here and like in the state. Like, and he's like, yeah, but it makes my chant better. I was like, no, no, it does not. Just, you know, misspelling or like, I mean, okay, I came at the age of 21 to the state, there's no way I can have a perfect, like, you know, English accent. I still have words, but like, I practice as much as I can to, you know, to pronounce it the way it should be pronounced. Not like, by the water of Babylon, you know, or like, I don't know,
So if I hear a Greek
yes.
with a heavy Greek accent speaking with a real nasal tone, I shouldn't try to imitate it.
Please don't. I mean, some people, God bless, their voices are, you know, I mean, that's